Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm really excited today to bring you a story from Mike James. I saw a post on Facebook with him just holding this key and talking about getting his first duplex, and I was so inspired by that. I had to reach out. I didn't know Mike, but I could appreciate that story, and so many of us wish we could get that first deal done. So Mike, thanks for joining. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your interview series for your YouTube channel. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Mike, why don't we just do a quick introduction? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do as far as investing, buy and hold, flipper, wholesaler, all of that, sort of what you do, and we'll just sort of get started from there.
Sure. Well, I guess, as you mentioned, purchasing a duplex, that's actually the first real estate investment opportunity that I've seized or taken a hold of. So a little bit about me. My name is Mike. I'm an officer out in Washington State. I work full-time as an officer. I'm not a real estate agent. I don't have a background in real estate, unlike many of the other people I've seen you interview on your channel. But I'm someone who has paid very close attention and developed a plan for myself to become financially free at some point.
Yeah.
And that plan is through real estate investing. And so purchasing this duplex that I just closed on last week is, I guess, the first really monumental step towards making that goal become a reality for me.
Yeah. Well, your story, my guess of everyone I've interviewed so far, and probably will for the next 50, is going to resonate with so many more people, because sometimes these people I get to talk with from my Rolodex, they've been doing it for years, and people kind of write those off. I was so happy to reach out to you and you accepted this, because I would love to talk to people that are just starting, right? I think I have an interview on Friday with someone who hasn't even done a deal yet. But when we can have real discussions and just throw it out there and just be open, I think the things that we can learn, and, feel free to ask questions too, right? I want to make sure this is valuable for you. So why don't we talk about that duplex, that purchase? Why don't we talk about it from, just for fun, sort of the closing table after, and then we'll go to So you go to the closing table, you sign the deal. How do you feel? What happened? What'd you go do?
Well, I mean, the first thing I did on the way back was snap that picture and upload it to Facebook and upload it to Instagram and say, that's right, that little key right there is the first time it wasn't handed to me by a landlord in my life.
That's awesome.
I don't have to pay rent to anybody else anymore. So, I mean, that is an interesting feel to experience, when most of my life has just been from one property, paying from one tenant from one landlord to another. And now officially, I'm collecting rent from somebody, and I'm paying, I guess, the bank, but it's in my name now. So it was a tremendous feeling. And again, I am 28 years old. I stumbled upon Grant Cardone when I was like 22.
Okay.
And I was doing sales for a company. This is before I was an officer. And that's as far back as it went when I started learning about real estate. So it's been 6 years of researching and studying and watching so many videos. It's not even funny. Before actually getting to this point where I had got all my financial ducks in a row,
right,
and was able to pull the trigger on something.
Yes. So let me just make sure, because I think I've pieced this together. So I'm guessing, based on the way that was answered, you live in one of the 2 units.
I do. Yes. House hacking.
House hacking, baby. Exactly. So did you really go far, and you actually have a roommate in yours as well?
I do. So I am squeezing every last financial cent out of the square footage of that property.
I love it.
My brother, he's actually an adopted brother, but my dear friend Saxon, he is my roommate at where I live right now, which I'm actually still in my old place. I'm moving tomorrow and the next day into the duplex.
Oh, that's awesome. Good.
But he's been my roommate for years, and he and I are going to live in one side of the duplex together.
Yeah.
And then my tenant lives in the other side of the duplex. So I am down to only paying a small amount of the leftover on the mortgage payment.
Sure. That has to feel good.
Right? It is an interesting place to be in. I haven't been there before. It does feel good.
Awesome. So then the other things I'm going to take away from this conversation is you got your first of hopefully what will be at least 4 residential loans, right? You went to a bank.
Right.
I'm going to assume, basically, because you sort of watched my stuff, I'm guessing you got a 30-year fixed mortgage?
I did. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, see, smart man. And you're conservatively financed. You're paying a little sliver. So this is something you could hold, theoretically, for the rest of your life, regardless of what happens to your marketplace, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I don't plan on selling. I didn't buy it with the intent to sell. I like the Graham Stephan and your preachings or teachings of, buy and hold, because I think, as you said in a video interview you did earlier today, the actual path to financial freedom comes from owning assets, not just flipping houses, not just buying and selling and getting a profit, but actually owning long term, which is my goal.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I'm going to share with you, both to you and to the rest of the folks watching. True wealth, freedom comes from holding, right? It starts with conservatively financing fixed rate debt. And then you just put it on autopilot. You let it run for 15 or 20 years and you will be amazed what happens. First of all, if you're not going to be in that duplex anymore, it's still going to be paying for itself.
Right.
You're going to be in such a great position. And then when you have your pension kicking in and all these other stuff, you're going to be living great. It's going to be awesome.
Exactly.
The other thing is you've taken that first step with execution. So, when we get into the third part, we'll save that, but there's so many more things you could do next. So we'll get to talking about that. I'm very excited. So I guess let's tell us about how'd you find the deal, right? You've been hunting for a while. Was it in the MLS? Was it a realtor? Was it somebody in your network? How did this deal come in your lap before you said, yeah, that's the one I want to get?
Sure. So that's a great question. I live in the Seattle area. Yep. I work in Seattle. This is one of the hottest real estate markets in the country. Absolutely. 21 months in a row, we were the highest appreciating market up until September of this year. So it's a very competitive market. Yes. Anybody who wants to find a deal has to look outside of Seattle. And I went even further to go outside of the county, simply because there is a very strong push for rent control.
Yes.
One of the individuals in my life who has sort of pushed me, I don't want to say pushed me, but has inspired me to take this a step further and actually become a real estate owner, a real estate investor. Actually, my sergeant, he owns some property, but he owns in King County, and he is constantly talking about the struggles of the politics involved with it. Yeah. So I said to myself, I'm not doing it. I'm going to Pierce County, which is only 15 miles south of Seattle.
Okay.
But vastly different in a political landscape.
Awesome.
Anyways, so how did this fall into my lap? I had interviewed a number of different real estate agents, never worked with one before. I interviewed 4 different real estate agents and picked the one that I liked the best. She was fantastic.
Awesome.
And he just sent us a whole bunch of different information about duplexes and triplexes that were on the MLS. And we looked at these properties. And again, because it's such a competitive market, a lot of the good deals are probably off market or gone.
Yeah.
Or what we found was the ones that were left were, I guess, probably the bad apples of the bunch, things that had been on the market for a long time.
Overpriced, bad condition.
Right, exactly. And so I went out, we looked at a couple of these different properties. Me and Saxon, we looked at a whole bunch of different things, the numbers wise, in terms of the printouts. We actually went and toured a couple of them.
Yeah.
But the one that I ended up purchasing came on the market, and I went and saw it the day after it came on the market and was like, this is a fantastic property. We had a little hiccup or a lull in our local market where it had gone up literally month after month for 6 years straight. And then all of a sudden that hiccup slipped, dropped a little bit with interest rates going up.
Yeah.
Prices came down. This thing hit the market, and I looked at it, I was like, I know this area. I know this property because I viewed it. I was like, this should be $500,000, but it's only listed for $450,000.
Nice.
So I was like, we have to get it right away. And we put an offer in, it was accepted. The rest is history. So I feel like I was very fortunate.
Yeah. So without knowing it, you're following some of the things that I recommend investors do. First and foremost, you got to go out and do your homework, right? You got to go see property, right? In your case, you're going out and seeing dozens, if not, hundreds of properties, so that when that thing crosses your path, a property that's $50K under market, you're like, done.
Yeah, this one's on sale.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of new investors go wrong. They either go on one or two extremes. They either are, I'm going to go to a market. I think you said it was King County.
King County. That's where Seattle is.
This is. I talk to investors all the time. I'm going to go to King County. I'm going to spend Saturday and Sunday there, and I'm going to buy something. I'm like, how can that make sense, right? You're going to see maybe 12 properties, and you're only going to see the 12 that some agent takes you to. I mean, how is that okay? No, that's what I'm going to do. I'm like, good luck. Go to the craps table and, whatever. So that's the other thing. Or they spend all their time in paralysis analysis and make excuses. They don't take action. So when I tell people to do homework, it's homework with intent. And the intent is when stuff crosses your path, you can take this whole library of deals and go, hey, this is in the top 5%. I'm going. And that's what you did.
Well, I mean, I hope so, at least. I feel, based off everything I've seen, it looks like I really got a screaming deal on this thing. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, time will tell for certain. But yeah. I luckily have had the fortune of living all over the area. I know the area very well. Based on my job as an officer, I know crime rates in schools and things. Yeah. I mean, this is exactly where I would love to be. And so I'm very lucky that I got
well, let me just make you hopefully feel better. But I'm also going to try to scare you, right? So you bought it for $450. I lived through and invested through the 2008 crash. Right. So that was horrible. That was painful for people. What could happen is your property could get cut in half. And by my math, that makes it $225.
Right.
But the good news is twofold. One, you've already said you're paying that much of the property. So who really cares?
Right.
Two,
exactly.
You don't spend net worth, right? Your income statement is the money you spend. And oh, by the way, the properties will come back. Right. So there's no clause in your loan that says if the property comes down, you got to pay it back or anything. No, you have 30-year debt. It's fixed rate. And the beauty is I can tell you that rental rates go up when housing crashes. And I'm not calling for a housing crash or any of that thing. I'm simply trying to make you feel better, because even if it falls another 50 grand and it goes to 400, who cares? You're good, right? You're not playing for this year. You're not in the stock market trading game. You know, this is going to be something you play with when you're retired in 20 years.
Right, exactly.
Don't worry about it. So that's a great news. So let's rewind the clock and move on to step 2 of these interviews. And whether you want to go back to the Grant Cardone days of a 22-year-old, fine by me. But tell everybody how you kind of like got into real estate, you know, you're interested in it, where you started to do your homework, all of that. Make us feel part of your origin story.
Sure. Well, I mean, if realistically, I would have to go back to when I was just a kid.
Okay, let's do it.
I grew up so unbelievably dirt poor. There's 6 boys in my family, 7 kids total. We all have the same mom, but a lot of different guys were there. And we grew up very poor, evicted from place after place after place. I mean, the power and the heat would get shut off. And I'm one of those people who knows that in North Dakota, where I'm from, they can't legally shut the power off for more than 12 hours out of the day, because it's so cold. They have to at least keep the power to heat the house, or you might die.
Right.
So, I grew up from very humble beginnings, and I knew that I never, ever wanted that for my family and for my kids. And so from the time I was 8, I mowed lawns in the summertime so I could save up to buy Pokemon cards or something like that.
Yeah.
My first job at 14 at McDonald's in North Dakota, you can work at 14 if you believe that. I also could drive at 14, so I was driving in 8th grade. That's a scary thought.
That's a scary thought. Yeah, they do it different in North Dakota, man.
There's not many people. There's nothing to crash into other than this. But much different than Seattle traffic or California.
Yeah, amen.
But I kind of had this, when you grow up so poor and you realize you can't ask mom or your family for anything because they don't have anything to give you, it's on you to make it happen. And so from a very young age, I realized I have to work and I have to be successful, because no one's going to do it for me. So as I got older, I graduated high school at that same time that you said you were going through that real estate crash, 2007, 2008. That's when I graduated high school. And there weren't any jobs. So I went back to North Dakota and stayed connected to people here in Washington until I was able to secure a job. And that's where I kind of locked down for a few years. And that was where I discovered Grant Cardone. I worked at this granite shop. Yeah. And all I did was fabricate countertops in a shop, running saws and polishing all day long. Wow. And I sat there and I was like, man, you know, I know every single song on the radio, front, ways, and back. And I know all the oldies, and I love Elton John. Yeah. But I took to heart some advice that I got from Brian Tracy, who was a sales expert, who said, turn your car, or in my case, my granite shop, into a university on wheels.
Awesome.
And so I started buying self-help, books and audio tapes and downloading programs and listening and learning. And that is, again, how I got turned on to Grant Cardone.
Yep.
And got turned on to him for his sales training because
Sure.
I was learning how to do sales for my company because I realized I got to do something more than polish granite for 15 bucks an hour. I've
Amen.
got to increase my income.
Yeah.
And Grant Cardone is the first person in my life who took me away from a defense-only strategy of saving your way to financial freedom, which was the
Yes.
Dave Ramsey method that I
Yep.
kind of grew up on, to figure out how to earn more money, take calculated risks,
Yep.
and build for yourself. And then from there, I went, Grant Cardone, and then over time, all these other different financial gurus,
Yeah.
and then Graham Stephan, and I eventually found your videos and all these different things.
Yeah.
But that's really what started me from just this kid who didn't really know much but knew I had to do something,
Yeah.
through this linear progression of the attainment of knowledge to where I'm at now, which I still have a lot to learn. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the right track.
No, I think, hopefully I personally took a few things away from that origin story that hopefully a lot of people see, right? Humble beginnings, you know what it's like, to suffer, right? It's
Right? Yeah.
you know, it's, I can only imagine, having the power turned off and you have to get it turned back on or else you freeze to death.
It's cold.
That sounds cold, man. It sounds cold. I don't do well in the cold. So that's rough. And then figuring it out and turning your granite shop into a university. I think that's so powerful. So good for you. Good on you. I'm very proud of you. I look forward to seeing where you go with this. So let's fast forward now. Let's jump the clock. Let's pretend it's 3 to 5 years from now. Where do you hope to be? What do you hope's happening around you and all of those things?
Well, honestly, I hope to own 3 years from now. I hope to own at least one more property. It would be great if I owned 2.
Yeah.
5 years from now, I absolutely have to have 2 more
Yeah.
additional properties.
Okay.
I told my real estate agent the day we closed and she handed me the key, I said, we're going to be doing this again within 1 year. I'm going to make it happen. It has to happen.
Yeah.
And now there's different ways I can make that happen. My brother Saxon and I, if we have to buy something under his name so we can get a loan faster, but I just, we work together on this, and I see myself, I don't ever like to feel like I've made it or arrived, because then you'll become complacent.
You got to stay hungry, man. Got to stay hungry.
You have to. That victory will defeat you. Okay.
Yes,
If you accept victory, then you will lose your next game.
Yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
yes, I have this one, but I don't even let it, other than that picture on Facebook, I don't let it hit me as if I actually own anything. No, I'm still paying rent to somebody.
Yeah.
I got to save up and get another property. My bank account just dropped 30 grand.
It's amazing.
It hurt to look at.
That's awesome. You know what? Let me give you a little piece of advice. So what I just took away from that is you're going to basically save your way to your next down payment. That's
Exactly.
what I heard you say.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I might want to do if I was in your situation is, again, call the agent you're working with, because clearly there's a bond there.
Right.
Let her know that you might be, or that you're particularly interested, say, for the next 6 months, in any owner finance deals that come your way or comes your way, right? Because this is what I think is going to happen. I believe the real estate market is about to have an air pocket. I don't think it's going to be bad, but I think it's going to be enough of an air pocket where some older sellers who don't owe anything, right? They're free and clear. I think they're going to go, okay, I want to cash out near the top.
Right. I can't blame them.
Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, genius, right? I've done a couple of these deals in the last year or so. They're, I guess I can say this, their average age is 70, right? So they're up there.
Right, exactly.
So, good on them. They've owned it free and clear probably for decades. So shoot, I hope I'm them when I'm 70, right? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Good for them. But where I'm going with this is, when there's that kind of air pocket, you get this unique environment where maybe there's some owners that will finance a deal for you. And the beauty there is you don't need as much down, right? I've done deals where we control the monthly payment to something that I can afford and rent out and do all that stuff. But I've come in with as little as $5,000 down.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So that's just something to play with, right? Because if you can create the second avenue to get the second deal, maybe all that savings you're going to be hustling for, because I'm never going to tell you to stop that. Maybe that becomes your third deal.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I think
I will a little faster.
Yeah, I'm here to help, right? I got to give back. But I would call your agent and sort of tell her that, because I think December to like May, I think there's going to be an air pocket. I think the Fed's going to bump rates a little bit. I think the yield curve inverting is going to scare the pants off a lot of people. And I think you're going to have just this unique window, where maybe a guy like you has clearly got his head on his shoulders and doing the right things. We'll get a second deal faster, I bet, and we'll see another key picture.
Well, I appreciate any and all advice. I mean, one of the kind of difficult things, I suppose, is I feel like I have a lot of mentors in terms of YouTube mentors and YouTube teachers, and I have a YouTube 4-year education at the very least. I might even have a master's program.
Probably a master's at this point.
Working on my PhD.
There you go.
But, an actual mentor to actually sit and have a conversation with kind of like this is something where it's kind of difficult to find, I suppose. Networking, probably, if I was going to assess myself, my biggest weakness is networking. I need to go out and do it. And whether that be attend some local investing group meetings, connecting with folks like you, I think networking currently is my biggest weakness and something I need to actively work on hard if I'm going to be successful.
Yeah, I think, I think one of the things that I've said, and if you've watched any of my videos, it comes up probably every 30th video, is real estate's a people business.
Right.
And I've admitted it time and time again. I spent the first 10 years of my career trying to convince myself that Excel was going to be my answer, right? If I built the most sexy Excel spreadsheet, that it was going to unlock this magic, puzzle solving thing. And it's just wrong. It's just stupid. Right. It was just wrong. So I don't know how else to say it. I was an idiot. But I would absolutely, there's a couple of things that I now look back on and go, damn it, I should have done that better. So first thing, make it a point to get to 5 network meetings a year. Pick a number that's comfortable. I know you have an odd schedule and all of those things. But you'll never know where you'll make that one relationship or that one contact. Now my entire deal flow is 90% network based. Right? Okay. And I've spent 5 years kind of doing it, where if I would have spent my 15 years doing it, I could only imagine what would cross my mind.
Yeah.
So let them know you're in the game. Let you know what you're looking for. Always know what you're looking for. The other thing that I see a lot of new investors do wrong is they say something like, hey, so-and-so, if you find a deal you can't get done, bring it to me. I'll get it done. No, right? If I find a deal, they're so rare, I'm going to get it done comes hell or high water. Right. If you can go, hey, I'm looking for a duplex through a fourplex, so you can get residential financing, or anything owner financing in Kings County that is younger than, whatever the criteria is, you're going to be so much more educated. You're going to be put on the top of the list of what you're looking for, and you're going to just differentiate yourself. So that I would get tight on that story for the next 6 months as you're saving, because you just never know where people are going to bring stuff. But yeah, you've got a network. We're going to be connected forever now. You're on this video, so we're you by default get my time anytime you want because you're giving me yours. So
I appreciate
congratulations. But again, you should network in your area, right? There'll be things about Kings County that I just don't know or have experience, right?
Right.
But pick a number that's reasonable. By the way, I'm going to hold you accountable, so you're going to tell me what the number is, and I'm going to hold you to that.
There's my homework assignment.
Exactly. So pick a number that's reasonable. Don't make it so high that it's like 24, and I'm like, you're never going to freaking do that. Come on.
It's going to be tough.
So let's pick a number. But those are the kind of things that you need to do is find your weak spot, right? I actually, I think, I don't know if you've seen it. I did a whole free real estate 101 class. And actually the first class was your goal session. And the sort of part B of that is identifying your weaknesses.
Okay. Interesting.
So if you identify your weaknesses, then you go create a plan for that. So take a look at that. It's a 6 or 7 videos. But I think you'll see a lot in that. And then again, we're connected, right? So that's cool. So I guess since we're here, any questions you want to ask me, then we'll get them here on film so others can see it.
Well, now that you put me on the spot, I plan on interviewing you, so I have a whole bunch of questions.
Oh, okay. Well, just throw one out.
Well, I guess my question to you would be, let me see if I can figure out how to phrase it. When you're looking at scaling from where I'm at now, I think probably the hardest thing to do is to get the first property. But then once you've got that first property done, what then becomes the next hardest thing to do in order to scale?
Yeah. So I think first, a lot of people make this, I don't know if I want to call it a mistake. It's this observation that once you get the first one done, you're suddenly supposed to have a plan for bigger and better things. That's just not the case. What I would tell you to do is really simple. Your job is to make deal number 2 slightly better than deal number 1. That's all you have to do. And then deal number 3 is better than deal number 2.
And no alligator properties.
And no, there you go, man. Freaking alligators. Don't freaking ever buy one or create one. I'm going to come up to Seattle and slap you on your hand. Yeah, exactly. But you're too early to think about some grand plan, some 5 steps ahead.
Right.
It's okay to play checkers right now. And I've said it lots of times. If you can get to 4, it unlocks financial freedom, right? Life is so better. Why 4? Well, honestly, 4 because it's easy to get financing for 4.
Right.
Once you get to 4, we can talk about getting to 10, but just focus on getting to 2. And then you'll get to 3. And if you can have the extra goal of saying, hey, I want deal number 2 to be slightly better than deal number 1, which maybe feels impossible to you because you got a $50K discount. Trust me, I have that mindset. Yeah, when you have that mindset, it will unlock and it will come to you, I promise. That's what I would do.
Stay diligent. I'll keep after it.
All right. So as we close out this session, I guess for you, why don't you share kind of 1 or 2 books maybe you've seen that you would think others should read, any kind of words of wisdom you have? Then we'll call this video. We'll turn on another one, and then you'll interview me.
Well, no problem. I'll tell you what. I have read a few books. I would say the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone is a great goal setting book. It's a great book if you want to shift how you think about how you tackle a problem. And I would honestly say everybody should read it. It doesn't matter what you do in life. It doesn't matter what your goals are. This will help you become better at setting and achieving goals, whether they're business related or not. Maybe your goals are to be a better father, something like that.
Totally agree.
10X Rule is a fantastic book. Also by Grant Cardone, I've read Sell or Be Sold, which I thought was a good book as well. But in terms of books, I hate to admit this, but I'm part of this generation that we just don't read. And I don't want that to sound braggadocious because it's not necessarily a good thing. But I have said before in some of the videos that I've made, you have to have this constant thirst for knowledge. You have to desire to continually learn. Absolutely. And I think that nowadays the new version of books, instead of picking up a book and reading a chapter, it's waking up because I'm working night shift, but your notification for your video you uploaded while you're walking your dog pinged off and woken me up. I'm like, son of a gun. Well, it's only 5 minutes. I'll get it real quick before I go back to bed. That is that daily daily motivation or that little bit of knowledge or, the alligator houses that I cited earlier was a phrase I'd never heard of until probably yesterday when I saw you mention it in one of your videos. Awesome. So if you don't like to read books as a millennial or as Generation Z, that's fine. But what you have to accept is you still have to get the knowledge from somewhere and somehow. So find Gary V, Grant Cardone, Graham Stephan, Michael, and is it Zuber?
Yes, Michael Zuber.
Okay, so Michael Zuber, right? One rental at a time, and take that information and just put it on play while you're driving down the road. I was driving my son down south today. I think we went through 3 of your videos, one of the interviews that you did, and then a couple of Gary V videos. So I get information, and I recommend probably those content creators.
Totally. Yes.
And then if you do want a good book, man, the 10X Rule is just, that's solid. That's where it's at.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for giving me your time. I mean, every time I do one of these interviews, I learn something. I think hopefully the audience sees their story. Going from where you did as an 8-year-old and having that situation to, coming out of high school, not having a job because it was a rough time. I remember I have a daughter who was graduating around that time. So you're probably really close to her age, which makes me feel really freaking old. Thank you very much for that. And then getting your first deal. So I really appreciate it. I've had a ton of fun. I want to thank you, Mike. And I look forward to continuing this relationship. Take care.
I appreciate it. Thank you.